Dear Heavenly Father, we come to thee this evening with gratitude in our hearts. We're able to gather together as a Veterans Caucus and be able to cast our votes and decide with thy spirit who we should be supporting in this upcoming election. We ask for thy guidance that we might make prudent choices and follow thy will. Love the Lord and say so in Christ.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hatch. Appreciate that. Pledge of Allegiance. I'm happy to lead that. We're all veterans. We all know how the pledge goes. We have a flag in the room, so please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy 250. Last, we have a reading of the platform plank. I think I might waive that just because we're a little behind. We kept people waiting on there, but I encourage everyone. The platform, Utah Republican Party platform, is online. You just Google that, you're going to find it, and that is some good stuff. I am just looking over the requirements here. By the way, we've got 5 races scheduled to be voted on that are contested primary races. If you don't want to vote in one, you can just abstain on that, but you can vote on the others. I'll make some brief comments. We do expect President Adams later, but I want to mention the NATO alliance because NATO's kind of under fire, right? And I grew up in the Cold War. I'm going to keep this brief, guys, but I think it's important to have that alliance, right? Because we've been a great nuclear umbrella for Europe. I agree with President Trump. They need to pay their share, but I think we benefit from the joint security that Europe can back us up, and they have. Actually, we're the only nation that has ever invoked Article 5. We did it for the Gulf War, and President Trump asked for NATO's help in the Gulf, although that was after action already started, so I think that was a little tricky. But I think the alliance is a good one, and we need to keep it strong, and we need to protect each other. So, but with the Europeans paying their fair share. Do we have any other officers or vice chair or secretary that would like to make comments, defense related, politics, other? Seeing none at the moment, we'll just proceed with the voting issues. Our purpose as a Veterans Caucus is to allow a voice for veterans and their relatives to endorse GOP candidates, to make items of defense known to the elected officials. We don't only endorse veterans. We will consider all candidates, but only veterans and their family members are able to vote. But that includes in-laws and step relatives. Welcome, President Adams. Thanks for joining us and our people on Zoom. Representative Trevor Lee is here in person. He has another engagement here in Layton in a little while, so we wanted to let that go first. He is in a race in House District 16 against Bob Stevenson, who's our commissioner in Davis County, and Representative Lee is the current rep for House District 16, has been for a couple of terms at least, 2 terms. And so, Colton, if you could kind of keep track of the time, we're shooting for 2 to 3 minutes. It's anywhere in that time. We have Rep Lee here to speak. So Representative Lee, I'll let you speak for yourself.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, veterans. It's always good to be in front of you and have this opportunity. I love what you guys do, and you are some of the most important people that we have in our country, in our state, and I think sometimes some of the most overlooked in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of veterans in our country. We have a lot of people who have served and have given back to this great nation that we have. But in return, sometimes I don't believe that in this country, and sometimes even in the state, we prioritize our veterans over others who potentially may not be of deserving of taxpayer money that we have in this state. And an example of that is, I think it's atrocious that we have such a homeless problem with so many of those of you who have served. And the issue that I see is not that we don't care or that we're not trying, especially up in the legislature. We've done a really good job, in my opinion, of trying to tackle this issue. But some of the biggest problems that I see is a lack of resources. If we had unlimited amounts of resources, it would be a lot easier to help our veterans get the care that they need. And one of the issues that I also see is if you look at the federal level and they having so much say over our veterans and the care that they have specifically up at the VA, it is being overlooked in a lot of ways. Some of that care is really, really bad. And so one of the things that I believe is most important is we support those candidates and we support those in office who are going to help reform the VA for the things that it needs and that are going to prioritize our veterans over other programs. So a good example of this is President Trump. One of the things he's done is had former Congressman Collins now head up the VA and those services. And he has had some dramatic impacts that he has done with the reforms and helping make sure that the care, the doctors, the organizations, and everything in our highly over-bureaucratic government to give you guys the care that you need. And it's night and day compared to the Biden administration. And even a lot of other administrations we've had. I think even this second term of Trump, he's done a much better job of prioritizing our veterans with the care and the things that he's doing. I think another important point to this is, you know, at the state level, I'm not a federal candidate. I'm not running for a federal office. But the people who we support and the candidates who drive those policies back in DC, they do go in line with a lot of the stuff that, for example, I believe in that I would like to push here at the state level. And I have a lot of really good colleagues. We do a lot of good things in the House of Representatives. But when we have a federal government that is backing us and helping us and we are working together in unison, that's a big deal. And I think a lot of that comes down to the relationships that we have with those who are in the federal delegation. And so one of the big pushes that I have is what can we do on the state level to help with our veterans? And that's why this last session, I really want to prioritize any of our taxpayer money to go towards our citizens first. I didn't want to see any of those benefits go to illegal immigrants and then go straight to our citizens, specifically our veterans. I mean, we have 7,000 people in the city of Utah on the disability wait list. And we have veterans who are homeless. And we're working to fix that. Representative Clancy is now in charge of the homeless, I guess you call them our homeless czar in the state of Utah. And that's one of the things that we are looking to do is put the right people in place to help fix those problems, because a lot of our homeless are veterans. The suicide rate, almost, I think it's 20 veterans die every hour from suicide in this country. That's also, in my opinion, because of lack of resources and help that we're able to give our vets. And so the policies that I push have tried to put veterans first, put American citizens first who have served this country, and to make sure that they're getting the care that they need. The other thing is making sure that we are supporting those who are backing and supportive of the military and what they're doing. And so here we have Hill Air Force Base. We have a couple other military bases as well. Those are close to the area here where I'm at right now. And we've done a good job of securing and making sure that that is a solid place that people want to go to and that they want to help give the jobs. When those are serving, come back, they have a place that they can work. And we've been very good with our relationships in helping expand that. So can we do any Q&A?
We do have time for that after. Can you wrap it up and then we'll see if the commissioners are online on Zoom by chance?
Sure.
Speaker.
Okay. So yeah, anyways, I'm Representative Trevor Lee running for re-election for House District 16.
That's good point. Blair, Mr. Secretary, would you please look to see if Bob Stevenson has joined us online? He was invited. He could be on there. We just want to look for candidates. Okay, we do have a speaker, that Bluetooth speaker, if you need to use it for candidates. Other than that, yes, we did allocate some time for Q&A. So I'll make a remark that I appreciated your comments about trying to help veterans here. Here's a question. Did you know that in Wyoming, any veteran that lives there for 5 years, they give them 20% discount on property taxes? I'll let you speak to this, right? So in Utah, we give the discount to disabled vets, right? But in Wyoming, they just decide, hey, we know you all put up with something, right? So they give to everybody. And I understand it does impact county taxes. And by the way, our motto is that we still serve. So we're not the veterans like, hey, what can you do for us? Right. We want to share our knowledge of what the country needs. Like my thing is we need to harden our grid against the EMP. But I would ask that question. I'll open it up to anybody else. If there's questions online, Mr. Secretary, you could relay them if anybody puts one in the chat. But for Representative Lee's here, we have a few minutes for Q&A. And I'll just get your comments on what can we do for property taxes for veterans, or just overall. Your comments, please.
Yeah. Well, you are right. It mostly is a county issue. So what I would say, if we want to help offer a discount to all veterans, not just those on disability, one of the things we need to prioritize, or should be prioritized at the county level, and even with the education community, because they are impacted by property taxes, is to stop spending so much money. If they didn't spend money, they would have more availability to cut places, sort of add those types of benefits to all veterans, not just those who are on disability. So I think it comes to managing those funds better. Stop building pet projects, stop going to things that people don't want, like a veterinarian clinic up here in Davis County, that's $20 million. That could be used for money to help prioritize property taxes for our veterans instead, or maybe instead of a sports complex, or $8 million ongoing for that. Those are the kind of things that I think if the money was prioritized better, we could help benefit veterans instead of projects that really I don't think we need, or is the role of government.
Thank you, Representative Lee. And just for everyone's knowledge, the meeting is being recorded. We might share it later. I'm not sure, but it is being recorded. We do have volume. So no further questions and no other candidates joined. Okay, I'll let Mr. Secretary look and we can move on to the next point. What we'll do with the vote is we're going to delay the vote till after all the races have been discussed. Then we have paper ballots for people eligible to vote here, and we online, the Zoom people will email their votes or text their votes to Mr. Secretary Blair Brandenburg. Privately would be my recommendation. But the next, thank you, Representative Lee, we appreciate that. Yeah, and enjoy your meeting tonight. It's always good to see the candidates who are willing to stop by in person and to go to events. And he's going to 2 events tonight. And we have President Adams with us too. We're looking forward to speaking with him. The next item on the agenda is that we would just do an acclamation endorsement of our convention winners for the congressional districts. CD1 is Riley Owen, CD2 is Carrie Ann Lisenby, and CD4 is Mike Kennedy. So we only have one congressional district that is contested, after convention, where we had a very close vote. I think it was 49 to 51, if I can round it off. I believe former Rep Lyman is online with us. And I don't know if Rep Malloy has checked in or not, but that is our next featured item. And Mr. Secretary, do you want me to break out a speaker so we can hear them from Zoom? Because we can put Phil on. How do you think we can hear Phil? Could be through the phone or it could be the Bluetooth. Okay, Phil, would you stand by? We'll have you on next. Just give us a minute to sort this.
So this is only muted, but it should play at once.
Oh, should it? It wasn't playing me talk.
But it's
Oh, you can enable it.
Well, I muted it.
Do you want my Bluetooth or is that gonna miss you?
Maybe feedback.
Oh, yeah, I think. Okay, okay, pardon our technical difficulties, but hopefully, Mr. Lyman, that gave you a little bit of time to warm up. We've got you down, Mr. Lyman, for 3 minutes, and then a little bit of time for Q&A. And I'm not sure if Representative Malloy is going to join in or not. She was invited. So can we get a sound check from the Zoom people?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Phil. That's great. So I'll let you have the floor.
Okay. Well, thanks for the invitation and thank you for your service. Thanks for all you've done for our country. I will just say, you know, when I was born in 1964, and around 1972, 73, I was very aware of Vietnam that was going on, and the men that were coming back, the young boys, in retrospect, that were coming back, and they had a huge impact on my life. And I assumed at that point that I would be called up when I was needed, and I was always thought that would happen, and it didn't happen. And in hindsight, I've thought many times that I wish I had um, enlisted and had military experience. My hat's off to you. I respect you so much. Um, I think, and what I've told my own kids and grandkids is the greatest thing you can do to show appreciation for a veteran is to live free and to teach them that they're free. And that's what this is about. Sometimes we get caught up in the policy of Veterans Affairs with forgetting what this country is all about, which is our freedom. I see people in government who don't seem to have a great appreciation for really what that means, and their policies kind of reflect that. And I hope that's not the case with me. I will say at the legislature, and I do appreciate Trevor Lee. I don't know if he's still there, but appreciate all that he's doing and all that he's contending with, and some really good people there in the legislature. I co-sponsored the bill a couple of times to eliminate income taxes on veterans. I believe that a country will be judged by how they treat their veterans and those people that have done so much for them. And it's not a hard stretch for me to vote to eliminate income tax on veterans, because I'm always pushing for more and more tax decreases at the state level. I loved what you mentioned, Bob, about the property tax abatements, and I think that's something that, again, property taxes are such a regressive tax, and we're abusing our citizens with the property taxes, and to do a property tax abatement for veterans would only make sense to me. I also appreciated, Bob, when you were talking about NATO. I was about to chime in and say, but they ought to be paying their fair share, and it is great that the United States is such a force for peace in the world. Pete Hegseth said he believed that the Nobel Peace Prize every year ought to go to the U.S. military, and it's so true. We are the peacekeepers across the whole globe, and it'd be nice if Europe and some of those countries showed us a little bit more respect and paid a little bit more of their fair share. When it comes to veterans benefits, I'm appreciative of this administration, of President Trump and his efforts in the mental health department to provide greater mental health, to provide quicker access to VA benefits. And I've worked with a lot of clients here in my CPA firm that are dealing with VA benefits and the challenges, and I've seen an improvement in the VA services, but still such a long ways to go. And that's an area that could do so much better. I noticed a recent announcement that they were eliminating student loan debt for veterans who are permanently disabled, which, again, it's one of those, it's like, well, that only makes sense if someone goes and is permanently disabled in the service of their country, that they wouldn't have student loan debts that they'd have to come home and repay. But I guess just in closing, I'm glad to be part of this group. I see a few people on here. I have great respect for you and what you stand for and what you've done for the nation. So just know you have my heartfelt gratitude and devotion to you. I have a lot of friends who are veterans. I've been very close to some of the suicide effects in the community, and it's heartbreaking, and one of those things that we have to just, I guess, take seriously and care about each other. So thank you.
Thank you, former Rep Lyman. Okay, we're not getting feedback, so I guess we're okay. There is a little time for Q&A, Mr. Secretary. If you could check if we have Celeste Malloy or possibly a proxy online. If there's a proxy, they could raise their hand or send a message. We'll give a minute just in case someone has something to say. Housekeeping. Would you like the water? We have some bottled water. Do you see anything, Mr. Secretary? If not, we have a little bit of time for Q&A with Mr. Lyman. Does anybody online have a question, or they put one in the chat? I have one. You have one too? Okay. Let's, Phil, you can still hear us and speak?
Yep, I can hear you.
So I will tell you, my hot button issue as a veteran is I was a war planner. I was an Air Force pilot, navigator, and war planner. And war planners the most rare, although there's not that many navigators left. And the thing I saw that scared me is we are very, very vulnerable to an EMP attack. And that's something the Russians know, the Chinese know. If people didn't know it, I wouldn't say it out loud. But I texted Carrie Ann when I found out she was running for Congress. I said two things. I said, number one, are you going to get signatures? And number two, would you take action to help harden the grid? And she said, no, I'm not going to get signatures. And yes, I would take action to help harden the grid. Now, I'll be fair. Blake Moore has investigated this. He joined not a committee, but what do you call those little groups? There's little, click's the wrong word.
Caucus?
Caucus, thank you, former Rep Lyman. So you know this stuff. He did join a House EMP caucus. So Mr. Lyman, I would just like to ask you: are you familiar with the EMP threat, and would you be willing to join that same caucus like Congressman Moore did, and take action like Congress or Representative Lisenby has considered? What do you know, Phil? Please tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I know mostly about EMP is what I've learned from you, Bob. And hardening the grid and looking into this, and I have done a lot of research on hardening the grid. With talking to you and David Pine and others, and it's one of those things. It is such a vulnerability when you look into it. It is it's expensive, but minuscule compared to not doing it. So yeah, I would 100% support efforts to harden the grid and to address that threat of EMPs.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. Our second vice chair, Colton Hatch, he has a question for you too.
Okay.
Hey, thanks, Phil. Appreciate you joining us for the meeting. My question is, we have troops stationed all over the world for not necessarily what I would consider a great purpose. For example, in Korea, we have more than 10,000 troops that just are stationed on the border to be a tripwire, whereas Korea can field 400,000 troops themselves. Is there any reason why we should just sacrifice 10,000 troops in the first week of that conflict going hot? Why not close that area and just leave some other capabilities there if we're expecting to lose those troops anyway?
You cut out just a little bit. I mean, you're saying, is there a reason why we would keep 10,000 troops there when there's already...
Oh, yeah. So the question is, what can we do to reduce force in areas around the world that we don't need those troops? Like, we can still have troops in Korea, but we have troops in Korea that are just stationed there to be a tripwire that we expect to lose them in the first week or two of that conflict ever going hot. Yeah. Whereas Korea could station those same bases themselves. We don't have to lose those troops.
Yeah. I think I've said I believe in peace through strength, and that's military and economic strength. And then our military, we've proven. I thought the Venezuelan action was so impressive because we had a military that went in and without casualties, we did something and proved that our U.S. military is innovative, strong. We've got technology. It does seem a little bit antiquated to keep, especially if it's 10,000 of our own troops waiting there to be the front line of a battle. So I think there's a lot of ways that we could reduce the human cost and just the financial cost of keeping troops out in those areas. And I don't know the specifics of the exact, the tripwire that you're talking about, but yeah, I am not a warmonger. I don't like the industrial war machine, and I see too much of that. When we talk about good policy and bad policy, a lot of times we have policies that are, look like America first when they're really serving some other interest. And that gets back to, the transparency issue of, okay, what are we doing in our military, and what is the actual threat that we face? And are we addressing that, or are we being manipulated by somebody who's got a financial interest in that? But
great. Thanks, Phil. And it sounds like we have another question typed in, so we're going to get that straight.
Thanks, Colton.
Oh, Yeah, Otto Kraus, he's on the State Central Committee. Can you relay that?
Is the MIDA organization a necessary organization for Utah?
So is the MIDA organization a necessary organization for Utah? So Phil, this is maybe kind of more state level, but maybe you're familiar with this. You could speak to, the military, and I'm sure President Adams knows military something development agency,
Military
installation development agency, and it's become famous lately because of the data center up in Box Elder that's being worked on.
And I could answer that if Phil can't. Okay.
Okay, and we'll certainly let you take it as a question to President Adams if you like. Phil, if you have comments on the MIDA, is it necessary? Did you vote for it? What do you know about it? For Otto, thank you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, MIDA is important to Utah, and it's done some amazingly good things. And in the process of doing that, it's been given more and more leeway. And I worry with some of I was looking back through some of the bills today that were dealing with MIDA, and I was in favor of all of the bills. And in hindsight, there's a few of those that I think maybe we were giving too much authority to MIDA. All of it comes down again to the people that are in charge of that, the appointees. Are they reliable? Do they have a conflict of interest? And so with transparency, hopefully we address some of those conflicts of interest. But Utah is so truly blessed to have Hill Air Force Base in the state, and it's a blessing to the country, the work that gets done there. So I'm a fiscal hawk. I don't like overspending, but when it comes to the value that I guess that we get from Hill Air Force Base, and MIDA was designed to protect that. Now we expanded it into transient room tax. We've got some things going there that I think that we need to maybe pull back and check that. And that to me, that comes back to the board that oversees that, of being responsible and ethical in the way that they handle the authority and the power that they've been given. And it's good to hear you, President Adams.
Great to be with you, Phil.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman. We appreciate that. We're kind of just a little bit ahead of schedule. Mr. Secretary, do you see a proxy or Celeste Malloy? Okay, so we're familiar with her. She's got a record in Congress. In fact, I'll tell everybody something came out just today online. They rate candidates, right, both for federal and state. It's iVoterGuide.com. So I like the letter I, then voterguide.com. They put out the ratings of, they're a Christian group. They've rated for a long time, and they just came out today. So that's something people can look at. I will say, I know it's a busy time for candidates, right? Some of them can join tonight, some can't. I know some are thinking about popping in for a certain period of time. We appreciate what they can do. I will say that Representative Malloy does show up at SEC meetings and makes herself available to people there, so I appreciate that. Rep Lyman did the same thing. He's come to many things. He's no stranger to the grassroots in Utah. So this will be delayed vote number 2. So delayed vote number 1 was Trevor Lee and Bob Stevenson. Delayed vote number 2 is for Celeste Malloy and Phil Lyman. And so now we can move on to the third contested race we have, which is for Senate District 7, right here in Davis County, where we are. And Senate President Stuart Adams is running against Braden Hess and another lady who's on the ballot by signatures. But the bylaws don't allow us to consider the signature candidate who didn't make it out of convention. So for our purposes, we would just be voting on either President Adams or Braden Hess, who I know is at another event locally. Mr. Secretary, maybe keep an eye for Braden Hess or a proxy, and any comments or raised hands. Do we finish all the questions, by the way? Okay, thank you, because I was moving on anyway. And so now we are honored to have President Adams with us, who can speak for himself. And President, you're welcome to answer that first question.
We'll get to the end of that. I'm happy to answer questions. Wow, it's great to be here. I want to thank you for putting this on, and I want to thank the veterans. right now, we know what's going on in the world. I've been in Ukraine. I led a state delegation, only state delegation to go to Ukraine. They spent when we were in Kyiv. The Russians shot their first high-speed missile in Ukraine, Kyiv, when we were there with that delegation. And I've been in Israel. I've seen with the legislative group there. One legislator, when they activated the Iron Dome, saw a puff of smoke. They shot. There's unrest in the world. I want to thank those that have served, because you put yourself in harm's way. We can't do enough. So I'm going to try to be quick, because I've got 3 minutes, but I want to talk about some of the things that we've done as a state. First of all, we have eliminated the state income tax on military retirement pay up to $25 million appropriation. That happened in 2021. In 2023, we expanded the property tax relief, as you mentioned, and for disabled veterans, up to 100% of the property tax is actually waived. In 2026, we expanded the tax and charitable giving benefits to charitable organizations. Many organizations actually create benefits or help veterans. We actually expanded those so that they can continue to have those tax credits. And we created a military to military civilian licensing pathway. If you work in the military, you may be really skilled as a nurse or some other tech industry. You want to get a state license. We actually allowed you to get that license without having to go through all that licensing process, because you're already trained. And we waive fees for deployed veterans. In other words, if deployed veterans are deployed and they want to get a nursing license, they have to renew their nursing license or any other license, they don't pay a fee. They're deployed. We have to take care of them while they're deployed. For active service members that don't have residency, and many of them come into town that don't have residency and they want to send their kids to school, we waive the in-tax. We give them in-tax. We give them in-state tuition. So if they don't have residency, we've allowed veterans to audit college classes. So I know I'm running out of time here, but we've expanded treatment and recovery options for veterans. We've given in 2024, we gave access to Utah State Parks as a pilot program. Hope to expand that. And we've increased penalties and protections for military personnel that are that serve, that have threats or been. So I'm gonna open up for questions in a minute, but we've also done a whole bunch at Hill Air Force Base. We built 2 new gates, you know that. We'll talk about MIDA in a minute. We actually built the entire police station. The security forces, the state did that. The state paid for and rebuilt the Air Force Museum there. A lot of veterans work and take part in. And we've also built a state software facility for 309. 2,000 professionals working. Rebuilt all those buildings with state dollars. So we love our military, love the veterans. Thank you for putting this on. I know I'm out of time, so let's go to questions, because I want to answer a whole bunch of questions. So I hope there's a few. And the first one's about MIDA. Let me take that, okay? MIDA was formed in the 2006 or 7 era. I was not in the legislature at the time. I was actually appointed to that board as a non-legislative member. And so I actually stayed on that board because I felt so strongly about it. The problem is that the people that work at Hill Air Force Base, they work in old Army barracks from World War II. And the reason I'm here is because my dad served in the military. He was a retired Army officer. Actually participated in jungle warfare in World War II. I had no idea, I had no desire to serve, but he convinced me to actually run for office. And these personnel are working in these old World War II barracks. And the military they fund F-35s, F-22, they fund Bragg Strauss, they fund all the things that Hill Air Force Base does, but try to get what they call MILCON. And those of you in the military understand what I'm talking about when I say MILCON. But it's military, it's funding for military office buildings. And they couldn't find any funding for it. So they said, how are we going to get funding for it? So we came up, I was involved in that process, came up with this innovative idea to take excess ground at Hill Air Force Base. And they actually did a study and said, we have 550 acres on the west side of the Air Force Base. You can see it as you drive down I-15. That's excess ground that we can actually move the fence back, privatize, and actually put that ground, even though it stays in military hands, the military can't sell it. The buildings that you build on it, we can actually privatize those And now, instead of that building being built on Hill Air Force Base being tax exempt, and we suffer from a property tax in Davis County because a lot of the buildings on Hill Air Force Base are tax exempt. Every building built in this, they called it an enhanced use lease. I'm calling it a planned lease. This project area gets taxed. And so the object was they would, any building that wants to be built on a piece of ground, they would lease that ground from the military. That lease revenue, that land lease revenue would go to rebuild those buildings. But the problem was that money goes back to the Department of Defense. And so that's a problem if it goes back to the Department of Defense, it gets spent in Colorado or Alaska. So you had to have the state agency involved. You had to have the state commitment. That's why we, as a state, built those facilities I just listed. And that state commitment allows that money to be kept in the state and kept by MIDA. So MIDA actually is the gatekeeper, and the base can use that money for specific buildings on that project. The other problem with that 550 acres, and sometimes we have battles, big battles over annexations. That 550 acres sits in Davis and Weber County. So it sits in 2 different counties. It sits next to 4 different cities, Riverdale, Sunset, Roy, and Clearfield. They were going to battle. Clearfield wanted to annex the whole thing. Roy wanted to annex the whole thing. It was a mess. We would have had a food fight that would have shut down that enhanced use lease forever. But they decided we would let the state agency take control of it. So they actually allowed MIDA to take control. They have land use authority. It's been amazing. I mean, I'm going to be quiet now, but I could talk more about it. So I'm going to open up for questions. Okay, so I got a bunch of them because it's actually been 6,000 jobs have been created in that enhanced use lease.
President Adams, is the 40,000 acres gates primarily for the rights availability or actual.
Well, thank you for that. And I'll move up to the data center. I need to repeat the data question. So give it to me again. Is the 40,000 acres in Box Elder County proposed?
Morally driven by water rights availability.
It's driven by water rights availability of the actual size of the facility. So let me go backwards a little bit. We know that the country that controls AI will control the world. When I was in Ukraine, I actually was there and we took a bunch of military contractors with the drone contractors, and they're trying to compete with the Russians and the Chinese. A lot of those drones are driven by AI technology. We know the importance of AI technology. Now, there's a problem with AI technology. It needs data centers. I mean, crud. I mean, we don't want them, but it needs, okay? And what does data centers need? They need power. And so you got to have power and data centers. But we have the lowest electric rates in the nation in Utah. And we want to keep those low electric rates. That drives our economy, drives Nucor Steel, drives other manufacturing here because we have low electric rates. We are fighting hard to try to maintain those low electric rates. However, we have a problem. We have a utility company, Rocky Mountain Power, specific form, that actually services Wyoming, Utah, and Idaho, that also services Oregon and Washington. There's a fire in Oregon, and that fire took out a lot of homes. There was a lawsuit that said Rocky Mountain Power was responsible for that fire. The amount of that responsibility was so large that it would almost bankrupt Rocky Mountain. It sent them into a point where their bonding ability was junk bonds. So we have a growing state, we have a utility company that cannot build additional capacity for energy. So we have a problem. So we said all these data centers want to come into Utah. And that's been for 5 or 6 years. We have a utility that can't provide the needed extra power to keep our economy going. What are we going to do? So we've been studying this. It hasn't been immediate, it hasn't been fast. It's been over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years. And about 15 months ago, Senator Sandler ran a bill. And he said, we're going to make sure that any data center that comes into the state of Utah that is outside of the grid, outside of the Rocky Mountain Power grid, has to provide their own energy. And not only do they have to provide their own energy, they have to provide more than they need. so they can sell back onto the grid and take care of that capital problem, the new generation problem that Rocky Mountain Power is sufficient in. And then we said if you haven't noticed, we haven't had a lot of snow. We have a problem with water. So down to the water issue, that they have to have approval for water. And they can't use, the old data centers used a swamp cooler system. The new data centers use one or two systems. They either use like an air conditioning system like we use in our home that's all electric, or they use a kind of a radiator system, closed loop system, where they put the water in the system and they run it around like a radiator and it cools the data center. Then eventually they have to replace that. And so we said if any data center comes in, it's got to be one of those other two, closed loop or a fully electric. So we had a request, and I guess it came from whoever that is, Mr. O'Leary or whatever. And he came in and he said, I've found a spot in Utah that has a natural gas pipeline in it, and I can actually produce my own power. And he said, not only will I produce my own power, I will produce a lot more than I need. And I will sell it back onto your grid and allow you to have that extra capacity to help Utah grow. And then he said, we will not use any water. And I know that's been a big issue, but that water up there that gets sprinkled onto the ground, there's been a study, and I'm aware of the study that says not any of that water goes to the Great Salt Lake because it's just like water in your lawn. It drops on your lawn, gets absorbed. But he said, I will actually either do one of two things. I'll build a pipeline from that area to the Great Salt Lake and take the excess water to the Great Salt Lake. Or when I do my closed loop system, I have to take the solid brine that's there, the water that I can't use, clean it up, put it into my closed loop system. And then if I have to replace that water, I will take the water out of my closed loop system and I will clean it up again. And I will take it to the Great Salt Lake and actually replenish with that water in the Great Salt Lake. So a net benefit to the Great Salt Lake, and somehow that word isn't getting out. But so he's there trying to solve our power generation problems. Now he has to go through a whole bunch more permitting, and there's no way in the world he can build a gas plant without going through the air quality permits. He can't go take water without going through the water permits. There's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done. But I don't know if that answered the question, but I think I'm not sure it's bounded by anything except we put the requirements down. When he came in, he actually filled those boxes and checked those requirements. And those requirements been worked on for multiple years.
No. The Trump DOJ is talking.
I'm having a tough time here, so speak up.
Another topic, the Trump DOJ has sued or settled the 6 states that provide in-state tuition for the banquet benefits. As an in-state tuition program, do you see any changes?
So the question is, I guess there's been lawsuits from Trump administration about in-state tuition for non-citizens. Do you see any change? And that'll be reviewed. I think it's a big deal right now. It didn't become a big deal until President Biden opened up the border and let tens of millions of people across the border. We have reciprocal agreements, and most of the places around the world, whether it be Europe or other places around the world. I mean, we have countries, Japan, Korea. The University of Utah has a branch campus in Korea, and we have citizens or non-citizens from Korea or Japan that want to go to school here. So there are some finesses that need to be done. You just can't close the door to everyone. But I think we're going to continue to look at it, because what we don't want is to facilitate those 10 millions of people coming in and getting benefits that they don't qualify for.
I personally,
And we have a personal question here.
back to the Davidson, are there any indication that Davidson would allow the big league river? It's the basin range.
So the question is, will the data center draw on the big aquifer? Is that the question?
That's
And they have to go through water application permits. To my knowledge, they haven't talked about an aquifer, and we would fiercely probably protect that. But there are surface water rights that the farmers have been using that they may use. But again, I think I explained that pretty well. If they use those, none of that water is going to the Great Salt Lake. They'll have to clean it up because it's salty kind of water. And then they'll clean it up, put it in a closed loop system. If they have to take the water out of the closed loop system, they'll clean it up again and take it to the Great Salt Lake. Even though there's no water going to the Great Salt Lake, they're committed to try to help. They understand the need of the Great Salt Lake. And then another thing that I want to talk about is a little bit of the potential tax revenue. We've been told, whether it's accurate or not, we still have to verify it. It'll create 2,000 ongoing jobs, thousands of construction jobs. But because of this, the significant nature of the property inside of that, when I'm talking to servers and other things that are highly valuable, their property tax value is in the, not their value, but the amount of property tax that they would pay is in the $1 billion range. Think of this for a second. Alaska does away with their income tax. Why? Because they have oil. And I talked about this a lot of times. And one of my goals to get away with income tax is cut income tax again, 6 years in a row. I hope to do away with it. Nevada does away with their income tax because of gaming. But if we're able to take some of that property, that $1 billion of revenue property tax that is there, we can take some of that and lower our income tax. That Box Elder County, I think they get right away either $100 or $150 million of revenue off of that property tax revenue. As you talk to the commissioners up there, they want to cut their county property tax in half. And so there are some property tax benefits. And again, none of this is getting to the end of the road because there's a lot of controversy, and I surely support that because I think it was rolled out wrong. Mr. Whatever it was gets on Fox News and then gives a lot of details. And we need more details because people make good decisions when they have good information. We need to make sure that good information gets to them. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? I probably have taken more than my time, so thank you. Before I leave, one more time, I just want to thank you for your service. One of the great blessings of my life is I lived in Layton. Because of that, I've got to spend a lot of time on the base. And some of my best friends have been military personnel up there, and I've been able to get to know them. And it is a great benefit to our community to have Hill Air Force Base here, not just economically, but socially. And some of my best friends and some of my best business associates have been veterans and people from the base. So thank you for your service again.
Thank you, Senator Adams. And Secretary Brandenburg, I just want to check if we have any candidates online or proxies. Okay, or hands raised. Thank you.
And I have a handout of all the state things I talked about. I'll give them to you. You can scan them and send them.
That would be great. That would be great. In fact, I'm going to see how we're doing on time here. I think we're actually right in the zone of on time. And even though we might have gone a little overtime, that was very hot topics that we were talking about there. And we appreciate your well-informed opinion, Senator Adams. In fact, I'll mention right now, if I might just piggyback on what Senator Adams said. Senator, I don't know. So as a nuclear war planner, I was a nuclear war planner. In fact, I trained our pilots, fellow pilots, navigators for nuclear war. I flew the KC-135, which is the one you have down in Salt Lake City. And its job is to refuel the bombers for the big war. One thing about nuclear war, basically Hale Air Force Base, you're right. I mean, I work in one of those World War II barracks, right? Or a warehouse is what the building I work in. So you're right. They're finally getting upgraded, but it's taken a while. However, Hale Air Force Base has some unique capabilities, which is great, but it also makes us, I would say, a top 100 target, right? Because we have an ICBM depot. We have, I'll just say, certain unique capabilities at Hill that I don't even want to say, right? But that we want to keep them, but that makes us a target. and of course the fighters, right? And of course the Russians, Chinese may be smart enough to know if a war's kicked off that the tankers are going to be gone. Probably a lot of the fighters, they might still hit it anyway. This is where my concern, and maybe I will turn this into a question, right? I'm rolling that way. And you know, Senator Balderi has brought this up. I know Senator Musselman from up here has mentioned that maybe with this data center, we could use more hardening of the grid, which when I say that, people might mean different things. That some people say resilient grid, everybody's working on that. Everybody's working on hacking prevention, right? Hardening it, cyber security for the grid. My concern is I know that an EMP could take out the whole West Coast power grid. One EMP from Russia, and we know that's in their plans. It would be, as a war planner, that'd be a great way to hit America. In fact, Iranians, they had a doctrine. This question's coming, but their doctrine was 2 EMPs on each of our 3 power grids to assure. And they asked their religious leaders. They said, "Hey, is this okay if we do this?" And they said, "Yes, because you won't directly kill anybody, right? Because they can do an EMP 50 miles up. It won't mess up your hair, right? But it will take out the grid." So, and then the sun can separately hit our grid, as did the Carrington effect in 1859. And in Montreal, it took down their power grid in 1989, right? So within most of our lifetimes, I think. Would you be open to looking at Utah, if the federal government doesn't do it, might Utah consider hardening its own grid or studying that? What could we do to protect our grid?
Yeah, sorry. Let me answer to that. It's absolutely. We've done so many things, and I'm going to maybe talk about a couple of them, but it may make Hill a target, but it actually is something I'm very proud of. The ICBM program you're aware of, you have protection in the air, nuclear missiles in the air, you have nuclear missiles in the sea, you have nuclear missiles on the ground in Montana and all around. Northrop Grumman wanted to redo our bid to actually be part of the renovation of the of the land-based nuclear system. I call it the ICBM program. Now it's called Sentinel. Right. So they bid on that. They bid on it, and MIDA actually approved that. And R&O built the building, the first building right there at the Roy Gate in 13 months. They stood up the entire land base redo of the missile defense system, the ICBM program, in 13 months at Hill Air Force Base. I mean, we can compete with China at that range. Now there's 4 buildings there. Go to the Roy Gate, look east, you'll see it. But the entire land-based missile defense system is now housed at Hill Air Force Base. They won't tell me what goes on there. There's 4,000, 6,000 new jobs there, and they're all paying about I don't know, 150,000. So we do need to harden the grid because, again, the country that controls, and I'm going to say AI, but the country that controls even the ability to take out electrical grid, no matter whether not with a weapon system, but actually with what you're saying, with an electrical impulse that takes out the grid, which you're talking about, will control the world. And today, I used to think when the Berlin Wall came down, oh, we're in a new era, we're okay. The Cold War is over. But guess what? You look at Ukraine, you look at Israel, you look at Iraq, you look at Iran, you look at what's going on around the world. I want to tell you the world is not safe anymore. And if we think it's safe, we're kidding ourselves. And if we don't think we're in a battle for AI technology, we're putting our head under the sand. And we will be wondering what happened to us if we don't harden our grid, if we don't take this seriously. And I'm in a big way in favor of it. In addition to that, we need critical minerals. We just located the largest Malloy site, which is where China gets all their critical minerals from. Nowhere else in the world is it found than China and Indonesia. We just found the biggest Malloy site deposit in Eagle Mountain, Utah. Ionic and I announced that. We need to have critical minerals. We're going to compete with China with critical minerals. We actually permitted a nuclear manufacturing plant in Box Elder County. We're going to compete with power and nuclear energy. We're going to try to make sure that China knows that we're alive and that the American spirit of free enterprise is part of they've got to deal with. And we're going to do that in Utah because the federal government is doing some good things, and I support President Trump, that they're not agile and as active as Utah is in defending our freedoms.
Thank you, Senator. And Secretary, we're still checking for candidates, proxies online. I would like to mention Senator Adams to you and your wife by virtue of your father's service, and you're welcome to sign in and get a ballot. You can vote, and yours won't be the only votes. We're going to vote too, right? So you both are eligible to vote because we allow in-laws.
That's a real honor. Thank you.
Yeah, and what we allow up to grandparents, if you're father, grandfather, whatever, or your grandchildren were in the military, that qualifies you to vote, right? You're a voting member of the Utah Republican Veterans Caucus. So, thank you. Okay, if we don't have anyone else there, Mr. Secretary, to speak on this race, and if they pop in later, they might. We'll let them talk and answer questions. The next race just on the agenda would be an acclamation vote, and that would be to endorse the Davis County GOP endorsed candidates. These are the ones that won at convention in Davis County. So I think we'll just, without going through the formal, somebody moving it, and then we'll just say we are endorsing the commissioner for seat A, Scott Fletcher, commissioner for seat B, Susan Lee. By the way, that's Trevor Lee's mother. Sheriff John Atkin, who I happen to know is a veteran. He's a veteran, and he's part of our Utah Republican Veterans Caucus. We appreciate his service and his running. And Clerk Jonah Whitesides, who is running for clerk against the current clerk, who must have got signatures because I think he's still on the ballot. And then House District 14, John Taylor, also a veteran. We appreciate his service, and we know that makes people ready for office. And House District 17, Lily Bittner. All these by acclamation. Then one more acclamation in Weber County. The convention nominee, the winner for Commissioner seat B, was Mayor John D. Beasley. And Mayor Beasley sends his regrets. He would also be eligible to vote, but he's got another thing going on tonight. Now we do have, and Mr. Secretary, we're looking online for the Weber County Commissioner seat A candidates. We're looking for Mr. Duane Kearsley or Councilman Richard Hyer from Ogden. They are one of those, it was a 58-41 vote at convention. Oh, yeah. So Mr. Secretary, they would just sign in on the sheet, on the green sheet, and then they can vote. So, Mr. Secretary, do we have any of these candidates from Weber County online? Mr. Kearsley, Mr. Hyer? Okay, they're both invited, but I know candidates are busy this time, so we're just going to keep moving on. I know that the Utah County Clerk was considering joining us. He is one of the ones we could consider for Utah County Clerk. It's a hot race.
I'm here.
Okay, so we've got, is that Clerk
Aaron.
Davidson checking in? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, and I did not have the contact information for Mr. Astill. I gave it a shot, but I didn't get it in time. It was a little bit late notice. So, in fact, I might ask, maybe you could give him a text after you speak, Clerk Davidson, just so he knows. But you're here. We'll be happy to let you speak, and we'll listen. You've got 3 minutes, and thanks for joining us. And go ahead, Clerk Davidson, if you don't mind going first. Oh, is he muted, Blair? Yes, he was talking just a minute ago. Are you muted, Clerk Davidson?
No, it keeps turning it off. It comes on and it says it goes
okay, we
off.
got you now. You can go ahead, sir.
Okay, and I'm not sure how to turn the video on this app. So yeah, I'm really excited about this race. I've been the county clerk for the last 4 years, and the host has asked you to start my video. Okay, so hopefully it comes on. And I ran on transparency, and one of the things that I worked with Corey Malloy is to get the cast vote records available. I'm sorry, that was actually Norm Thurston. We worked to get the cast vote records made available, and the cast vote record is basically just a record of each ballot that's cast. It shows who was voted for on every ballot, because 20 years ago and past, and in the previous past of that, it was the delegate, the precinct workers that actually.
Oh, you're muted again, is Clerk Davidson. Now you're back.
That's back on. So the precinct workers used to handle the ballots, and they would tell the county clerk the tally of the ballots. But now that with the universal vote mail, the ballots come to the county clerk, and they're the only ones that see the ballots. With the cast vote records, you can see anybody can look up to see how many ballots had candidate A cast on those ballots. And before, that was very discouraged to have that public. But in many states, that's been made public for many years. And so I worked with Norm Thurston to make that available. And last year it was passed, and I was the only county clerk that really supported that. So I ran on transparency, and I think that I've done that. And my opponent says that he's honest and he wants honesty and transparency, which is kind of ironic because I have no idea how much more honest and more transparent you can get than I've been. And in his portfolio, he says that he was a kind of a business consultant for Business Roundtable. Turns out Business Roundtable is one of the biggest lobbyist groups in Washington, D.C., and he was a lobbyist to promote the COVID vaccine in 2021 and contact tracing. And so he makes it sound like he's a consultant when in fact he's a lobbyist for Big Pharma. And so it's really strange for me to see the things and the accusations that he's made against me. Whereas I have been the most transparent county clerk that Utah probably has. I don't know how much time I have. I'm not sure how much 3 minutes is, but I'd love to answer any questions that anybody might have.
I think we're good on the time, Clerk. Do we have any questions from online? If not, Clerk Davidson, I don't mind throwing you a question. I'd like to ask, how often do you, because I've seen you at the Capitol testifying on election integrity type bills, how often do you find yourself at the Capitol during the session, or maybe when the session's not going on? How often are you up there, and what do you advocate for?
So I was up there probably at least a dozen times this last legislative session, and that's one of the critiques that my opponent has about me, is he says the county clerk shouldn't be trying to govern or affect policy. He should just stay in his office and dot his I's and cross his T's. That's all he says. Dot your I's. I'm going to dot my I's and cross my T's and stay in the office. But I think the county clerk, especially the county clerk of the second largest county, should absolutely be looking at what's happening and going to and working with the legislators to enact better policy and better legislation to make elections more safe and secure. Like I said, the cast vote record. And then I also worked with Norm Thurston on a couple policies also. And I'm going to continue to do that. I have made some great relationships with the legislators, and I'm going to continue advocating for better policy. I remember. So the one with Norm Thurston is we got access to using the SAVE program, which is the systematic alien verification for entitlements program, where we can now verify citizenship status of every voter on our voter rolls. Whereas before, if they checked that they were a citizen and signed the affidavit, that's all we could do. We could not verify their citizenship status. But working with Norm Thurston, we can now verify citizenship status. And there was a review that just came out that the lieutenant governor released and said that there were 27 non-citizens that were identified and 25 more that were possible non-citizens. But in that report, it said that there were 689 voters that the county clerks had taken care of before this review had happened. So that didn't count anybody that I had taken care of before this review ever happened, because we have been finding non-citizens on our voter roll and we've been taking them off. So there's more than just the 27 that's being touted in the media right now. And we're going to continue to find more.
Okay. Thank you, Clerk Davidson, for that answer. And, I had seen online comments that were questioning the Lieutenant Governor's investigation. And I think someone pointed out that maybe she didn't catch. I know we have 1 point something million registered voters, and that it was really only a fraction that was checked. I don't know. That's kind of what I saw online. In fact, maybe that's a question for you. Let's make it a question for you. So do you know what fraction of our voter pool was actually checked if they were non-citizens or not?
Well, I don't think that they checked everybody. I think they only checked like 70,000 of the voters on our voter roll. But I have found, actually I've had 3 non-citizens come into my office that are trying to get citizenship status. And when they go to get citizenship status, they have to come to their county clerk and get a certification that they are not registered. And when they came in for that certification, they found out that they were registered. And that was bewildering to them. They haven't voted, but they found out that they were registered. And so they had to go back to the DMV, and they did a grammar request to the DMV to get their actual driver license application. And all 3 of them marked that no, they were not a citizen, and they did not sign the affidavit. But just a little time after their driver license, they got registered as voters on the online registration portal. And they swear that they didn't do that. And so I've tried to get the metadata from the registration, and the Lieutenant Governor's office won't give me the metadata to show who was logged on when they got registered, because they swear that they would never have done that. And they sound very believable. But again, the Lieutenant Governor's office won't give me the metadata, and they've requested it through grammar request. I've requested it through a grammar request, and the Lieutenant Governor's office won't give it to us. And I feel really bad because one of these individuals is being threatened with deportation because he's registered to vote, but he swears he never registered. So those
wow.
3 weren't included on those 27.
That is concerning, Clerk Davidson. And I can comment as a member of the State Central Committee. I know the Utah Republican Party sent a bunch of people into Nevada to document what problems were they having with voters there. And they found because we're a military group, they found like active duty people there that might have been registered back home, Kentucky, Tennessee, wherever they were from. They were voting. They were still registered to vote back there. But somebody, unbeknownst to that military member, registered them in Nevada. So I think there are shady things that go on there. There's people that register in other people's names so they can get that ballot or something. I don't know what the motivation is, but it happened in Nevada. About 25% of the people that were our people interviewed down there said they didn't vote, but somebody voted for them. And there was more problems. But I believe we have another question for you. Can I relay it, Mr. Secretary?
Yeah, that was actually a personal question for me. Did the process satisfy the Trump administration and the DOJ's recent efforts for voter rolls and cleanup?
Oh, so you're referring, I think the Secretary has a question about the voter rolls that the DOJ requested from our Lieutenant Governor. Has that been satisfied? Does that
by this most
by this check of 70,000 out of 1 million plus voters? Well, do you know, Clerk Davidson?
Yeah.
How do you know the status of that DOJ lawsuit against Utah? Can you comment?
It's still outstanding, and I don't believe that this satisfied that request. This is kind of a different request. I think the DOJ wants it so that they can compare voter rolls across all the states. I think that's why they really want it. To perform the function that ERIC, I don't know if you guys know about ERIC, it's the electronic elections registration information center. I can't remember the exact, but that's the data that the Lieutenant Governor's office shares with the non-government organization that is there's 25 member states that they share data across the states to see if there's multiple registrations across states. But if it was done by the federal government, you could have it done by all 50 states rather than just 25. So I think that DOJ lawsuit is still pending.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Secretary, I'm going to ask a data favor if you can get to it. If not, maybe Mr. Vice Chair can. Because I don't think Mr. Astill, that would be the gentleman running against Aaron Davidson, I don't think he got a proper invite. So if you could look up Corey Astill's website, we'll go ahead and announce what his website is so people can go check him out if they want. However, I will announce that Utah County at their convention, the current clerk, Aaron Davidson, who spoke to us, he got 58.63% of the vote, and Mr. Astill got 41.36%. So it was one of those split decisions. Clerk Davidson, could you confirm, is it 60%? Is that the nomination threshold in Utah County?
It's 60%, and I missed it by 12 votes.
Okay.
I was dealing with SB 153 and the privacy status of the voters, and that has just caused so much work, and I just was not able to get out and campaign very much to the delegates because I was dealing with that. And if you want to look up his web address is coryastill.com, and my web address is davidsonclerk.com.
davidsonclerk.com for you. And is it just Corey Astill, his name.com, coryastill.com for your competitor? We'll just, so to be fair, check him out. However, most of the delegates voted for Clerk Davidson, but enough voted for Corey Astill that they both got to go to a primary, right? And so they got to duke this out.
And he went and paid for his signatures also.
Okay, didn't realize that. But you both made it through convention, or you wouldn't be being considered here today. That's just kind of the bylaws we have to operate under.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, do we have any more questions or anybody else?
Not seeing.
Okay, not at the moment. Well, that actually.
Well, thank you for letting me participate. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Clerk Davidson. We appreciate you joining us. In fact, we have one other candidate here, right? Okay, is this for Senate District 7? Is that what we're looking at? Okay, so President Adams spoke to us, answered questions, and he got to vote and leave. And so now we have one of his competitors. We have a signature person who's not here tonight because we can't consider her. But we have Braden Hess here also. So we'll let Braden come up and give a speech and then stand by to answer any questions that might come up.
Sure.
So thank you very much for joining us. I know you had another event.
Yes, thank you. 2 or 3 minutes, is that your
3 minutes, yeah.
Okay, great. Hello, my name is Braden Hess. I'm a resident of Kaysville, Davis County, Utah. That's where I was born and raised. So born in Layton, raised in Kaysville. I spent time in Farmington, where Hesses have deep roots in Farmington. Many people around here have definitely met a Hess. I'm raising 4 boys. We have yet to have any luck of having a girl, but it's very fortunate, actually. We feel really lucky that we have 4 boys that we can teach them correct principles and have them go and spread the very things that I'm trying to, the very ideas of freedom, of limited government to other people in the future. That's what our people need. I went to school at Utah State University, graduated with a degree in economics and political science. Following that, I went to law school in Maryland, which was really a refiner's fire for me politically. I got challenged in so many different ways on my beliefs, my political beliefs, in limited government, in less taxation. And we're really robbing Peter to give to Paul, what was a huge deal. I met several people who talked with me about being okay with the government taxing them up to 80 or 90%. And these were what I thought were more moderate people at my law school. So that could just go to show the kind of people that are becoming lawyers and filling our courtrooms, which leads me to one of my priorities as a senator, is appointing and confirming judges who represent our constitutional Republican values. Our senators they fell asleep at the wheel, frankly. They confirmed judges who should never have sat on our Supreme Court. They also confirmed appellate and district court judges, and we saw one of those in the Prop 4 ruling. So our current senator will say, we've solved the problem. We've expanded the court, costing you, the taxpayers, even more money, expanding it to 7 judges and their staff. And so they expanded the court, and then two of the justices retired. So now that's 4 they're going to be confirming. So now we've solved the problem. Well, in my opinion, adding more judges does not solve the problem. It adds government, adds more expenses for the government, as well as we're completely neglecting the fact that there is rot in the appellate and district court levels. So we need to vet our judges, stop the bleeding at the upstream. We need to vet our judges more thoroughly. Number 2, I want to lower and reform taxes. I think even here in Utah, there's fraud, abuse, and waste going on. I've run into several examples of that. One of them, my own family member who worked for the Department of Health, where they were buying products for pregnant mothers at outrageous prices, something they could buy on Amazon for $25. They were purchasing for $550. Probably still are today, frankly. So there's a lot of waste that can be cut, but also I want to shift away from property and sales tax, or property and income tax, and more toward a sales and use tax-based system. We shouldn't be penalizing our people for being industrious, for owning property, living the American dream. And that's what we're doing right now. Our incumbent has cut taxes the last 6 or 7 sessions, which is great, heading in the right direction, but we need to get rid of income tax entirely. And my third priority is making housing affordable again. And I believe that we do that through getting government out of the housing industry. We need to stop subsidizing. We need to stop controlling so much of the American dream of land. And that applies also to MIDA, which I'm sure is a huge hot button issue for many people, at least what I've heard of from many people. So my position is the government should be picking winners and losers. But I'm running for Senate District 7 because it's time for some change. It's time for the next generation to represent the people of Senate District 7.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. I will just tell you, when Senator Adams was here, there were a couple of questions related to MIDA and Hill Air Force Base. And the MIDA question was about, does it have to be as big as it is because of the water use? But you're welcome to just touch on anything you want on MIDA or Hill Air Force Base. And I also asked him if he would be willing to do something about hardening the grid against an EMP or solar storm. He indicated he would be. But if you just want to take those questions, and I'll repeat them if you want, but maybe start with comments on MIDA,
Sure.
and anything about Hill and hardening the grid.
Sure. Regarding hardening the grid, I'd be all for that. I think it makes a lot of sense to add to our security as a people. It's so important, our power and our resources that we use. We need to secure that, absolutely. When it comes to MIDA, it is a huge demand, huge draw on our resources, both natural when it comes to water and also our power and natural gas. My position is we need to have these questions answered for all businesses, not just MIDA, not just Stratos, not MIDA, not just Stratos, not just these data centers. It's all businesses. It's the government's job to provide the structure of rules that businesses need to follow and then apply them indiscriminately to all businesses. So as long, in my opinion, as long as a business can stand on its own 2 feet, not receiving subsidies from the government, not receiving subsidies from the people by lowering prices for water or for natural gas, if they can stand on their own 2 feet, then the government shouldn't get in the way of that. It's a matter of, I firmly believe in property rights. These farmers made a voluntary contractual agreement with these companies, with this company, and I think that they should be able to build as long as they're following the structure that we lay out as a people through our government. If this draw on our resources, if these new requirements of our infrastructure if they are expecting our people to foot the bill, if we're going to have a higher price because of the draw on the demand, then it's really the people that are paying for it. I don't believe in any sort of subsidization at all for any business. So let me say again, I think it's because of the massive nature of this project, I think we need to have these questions answered. It's a huge draw on our resources. As long as they're willing to pay for those resources, I don't think it's the government's job to pick winners or losers in a free market. So the natural thing to do is let it play out as long as they are paying for it. Okay. Let me actually say one more thing as well. Sorry. When it comes to MIDA, these as well as these other extra governmental entities, I'm not for any extra layer of government at all. I think PIDs, MIDA, all these other sort of government entities, I don't think they're necessary at all. They weren't part of the Constitution. We should not be adding extra levels of government to protect any special interests. That's not the point of government.
I just have a generic question for you, since Senator Adams is a little bit better known, right? So could you just tell us a little bit about your background? And I think you said you're a poli-sci and economics major. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah.
So those are very topical. But if you could just tell us about your work background and anything else that, why you want to run.
Sure. Yeah, so I hit on this a little bit. I went to school at Utah State, got a degree in political science and economics. I found a real passion for really my morals. I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ in England. And during that time, Brexit was a huge deal. It was on everyone's minds and in so many conversations. And so I thought to myself, I better learn about this stuff when I get home. And that's when I got the political bug, the political fire. So I got home, finished my degree at Utah State, and naturally went to University of Maryland. And after university, I got my first job at the LRGC, Office of Legislative Research and General Counsel, with the legislature. I drafted bills in mostly the transportation area. And I also provided constitutional legal guidance to our legislators. I saw some concerning things while I was there. The people that make up the office are wonderful people, very intelligent people. Frankly, though, many of them are Democrats. And in these Democrats, through a nonpartisan lens, they are providing their legal guidance to our senators and our representatives. Whether or not they think so, many times it is tainted with their biases. Whether they mean to or not, I don't know. But it became concerning to me because these Republican legislators were taking on a lot of these Democratic ideas, and they didn't even realize it. So it's my opinion that we need to separate that office. That was a big concern for me. But overall, while I was working there, I just felt like I was on the wrong side of the desk. I wanted to be the one making the policy, not the one drafting it and receiving the directions from the people that were actually passing the bills. So I quit my job, started my own law firm. I practice estate planning and business formation. So I help people with wills and trusts preparing for death. So I'm very familiar with the issues facing our seniors, facing the most vulnerable populations among us. It is very concerning. We are facing a 15% property tax increase here in Davis County. So many people cannot afford that as their property tax bill as it is, let alone a 15% property tax increase. And it seems to me the solution that our senators and representatives seem to be coming up with are Band-Aids. It's more programs like the first-time home buyer program, which only provides a second mortgage to those buying a brand new home, not an existing home. I don't know about you, but when I bought my first home, it wasn't some brand spanking new home with all the bells and whistles. It's a very modest home. And that's how it should be. The logic that the people that champion this idea, including our incumbent, is, well, there are 3,000 young couples that were able to buy a home that they otherwise wouldn't have. And I'm sitting there thinking that's Democrat logic. It's we that they're basing the success of a program based off of how many people use it. That's how Democrats view housing assistance, food assistance, all sorts of assistance. That's how California views their success, and they've got homeless people rampant. We should not base the success of any program here in Utah based off of how many people use it. So I ran, the plan was originally for me to run for the House seat in Kaysville, which is currently held by Stuart Barlow. He's retiring. But I felt compelled to run for the Senate for probably two main reasons. Number one is the biggest. I don't hate President Adams. I think he's done a lot of really good things. I also do think he's done some things, like expanding government, like the first time home buyer program. I think it's time for change. We've had him in office, in his current office and in the legislature in general for 22 years. It's time for some new blood. We need the next generation to be representing the people of Senate District 7. And the second reason is the judges. I became very concerned with Prop 4 and with the rot that we have in our judicial branch. And the only way that you can actually address that as a legislator is being a senator. They are the ones that confirm the judges.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. One more question, because Senator Adams and you both touched on MIDA and Hiller Air Force Base, but you mentioned PIDS. Senator Adams didn't mention that. So could you tell our people, we are recording this just for fair awareness, right? So, and we may post it. In fact, it's getting kind of juicy, so we probably will post it. But could you tell us what a PID is and why are you against them?
It's an extra layer of government that's created within a certain geographical area to create taxes to fund infrastructure. It can be all sorts of different types of infrastructure. But I'm against extra layers of government, extra entities that tax our people. It doesn't make any sense to me because our Constitution laid out the form of government we have. It is a federal government, a state government, and any political subdivisions that the state creates, which in our case it should just be counties and cities, in my opinion. We don't need additional entities. Along with PIDs are things called HTRZs that use a tax increment financing. And I'm not for those. Basically, what they do is they freeze property tax at its current use before development. So usually that's farmland. And then after the project is completed, its new tax level is up here. And the difference historically used to go to the county to pay for the increase in demand on services. Think, the criminal justice system. Think schools and health, those kind of things. But with an HTRZ, that difference doesn't go to the county; it goes to reimbursing the developers. And I don't think that we should be lining the pockets of developers through programs, even in the name of increasing supply of housing. So when it comes to PIDs, tax increment financing, I'm not for them. I'm not for any subsidization. I'm not for increasing taxes on our people through other entities that the people don't actually elect directly.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions, Mr. Secretary?
None showing.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I think that concludes all of our contested races here. Now I can open it up to people online or here. Is there anyone else that we neglected to consider for endorsement that we should? I'm not seeing anything in the room. Do you see anything online, Mr. Secretary? Do we have anybody that think he's engaged? Is there anybody that wants to nominate anyone else for us to consider endorsing? If not, we can move to the vote.
Move to the vote.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. It's a beautiful night in May here, and we appreciate everybody hanging with us. So we can go to the vote. We've got paper ballots here. Some people have cast those. We'll cast ours at the end. But for now, the people online should let Blair Brandenburg know through a private message on the chat, right? So send him a private Zoom message. If you don't know how to do that, maybe raise your hand, or you can text Secretary Blair Brandenburg, if you know his phone number. And we're looking at the 5 races. I don't know if you can see our agenda. There's a link to it, but the first race was Trevor Lee and Bob Stevenson for House District 16. So we just want to know who you're for. So if you just text, Lee for 16 or something, or Lee, we'll know who you mean. And then CD3, we have Rep. Celeste Malloy and former State Rep. Phil Lyman are the 2 for CD3. That's our second race. The third one is, you heard from both the Senate candidates, Senate President Stuart Adams and Mr. Braden Hess, who's running against him. So that's your third race. And you're all allowed to vote for all these candidates, by the way. You don't have to live in the district. It's a little bit different than other conventions. We're a smaller group, so we just let our veterans weigh in on all these guys. So we got the Trevor Lee, Bob Stevenson, that's race 1. Second race is Celeste Malloy and Phil Lyman. And by the way, I'm just using alphabetical for talking about people. Third race, SD7, is Stuart Adams and Braden Hess. The fourth race to vote on, let me get this right, is yes, Weber County Commissioner, seat A. So Weber County Commissioner, I think it's A, but we'll know it's Mr. Duane Kearsley versus Mr. Richard Hyer. So that's the fourth one, Kearsley or Hyer. And the final one is, and we heard from Clerk Davidson, and if you got a minute still, you can go look at CoreyAstill.com and see what you think of Mr. Astill. I didn't mention, maybe I did, but Weber County, Mr. Kearsley got 58.16% of the delegate vote, and Councilman Richard Hyer, he's a Ogden City Councilman, got 41.22% of the vote. And Clerk Davidson got 58.63, and Corey Astill got 41.36. So please let Secretary Brandenburg know your vote. You can do a Zoom message, private, or text him. If you're having trouble with that and you know me and you want to text me, I will transmit that vote. We'll put it on a ballot tally sheet. So the voting's open. So please vote.
Just to clarify, that is seat A.
Clarify seat A? Okay, so seat A for Weber County. But the 2 commissioners, if you just vote between Mr. Kearsley and Mr. Hyer, that is the race we're looking at. So there's 5 races. Blair, do you have the ability to copy the text I sent you and put it in the Zoom chat? Or maybe I do. You did that.
The
little ballot.
I already did it.
The people on Zoom can see that.
Verbatim.
Okay, so the people on Zoom know what I'm talking about. Okay, so please get your votes in. However, you should be related to a veteran to vote in this, by the way. So you can be a veteran yourself. You can be a family member. Your grandma, grandpa can be a veteran. Your daughter, son, your grandson, granddaughter, if you're old enough to have those in the military. And
looks like our voters.
Okay, so people are voting now. I'm going to see if there's any questions. There are not a lot of people here live. Otherwise, we would have a veteran story, because I like to do veteran stories. But I think we can spare you the veteran story and just commence to the voting. Give us a few minutes, and then we can announce the winners shortly. Hey, Blair, here's a thought. Do we want to stop the recording now? And then we'll restart it for the announcing?
We could do that.
If that's technically feasible for you. So I have a sample ballot there, but I'll just take one. Just for records. Do we have somebody? Are you gonna? If not, I can tell. Okay, I'm not hearing. I'm just doing this for entertainment purposes, right? While we tally the vote, I'll tell a story.
Bob?
Yes.
Bob?
Go ahead.
I just want to mention I sent my vote by text to the 310 number.
310. That's you, Mr. Brandenburg has that text, I believe. Can you identify who said that, just so we know?
Yeah, Ken Smith.
Okay, Mr. Smith. Let's see. Looks like we may have another candidate here. Oh, our sheriff. Yes, you were by acclamation.
I want to still come say hello.
Yeah, why don't you come say hello? Now's a great time. Can he say hello, Blair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, come on, Joe. You look ready for the job.
Yeah. Do we have some Q&A going on, or are we just chatting?
We could do Q&A.
I'm always happy to answer questions, but
Yeah,
good to be with you folks. So,
We're telling the vote, so why don't you tell them what you're running to see?
yeah. So John Atkin, running for Davis County Sheriff. Went through the primary and the convention, going through the primary now, went through the convention process, came out as the Republican Party endorsed candidate for sheriff here in Davis County. Current employee at the sheriff's office right now, internal affairs. Adding a little bit to the military background, I first joined the Army National Guard as a military police guy, enlisted for 3 years and went to the Air Force. Spent about 6 years enlisted security forces, deployed to the Middle East, over to Jordan during COVID timeframe, so that was interesting. And then I came home and commissioned as a Air Force intelligence officer, and I work out of the 101st Air Refueling Unit now in air operations. So very much appreciative of all the veterans out there. Sorry I was a little bit late. But grateful to go through this process. More than happy to answer any questions too. I can hang out if there's questions. If not, then regardless, I'll hang out for a few minutes.
Thank you, John. We'll let you, if there's questions, once Blair gets back to his seat, he's checking votes by text. We will let you know, and you're welcome to answer questions. Is that
Scott Fletcher?
Mr. Fletcher is here also. You're another one of the Davis County endorsed candidates from the convention. Why don't you come up? This is a great time to say hello. We're just counting all the votes. We appreciate it.
Hold on just a sec. We've got the video actually backwards.
Take a picture.
Yes. Give me just one.
You're just holding on. So how many people do we have online?
We have 10 online.
Okay, great. So all veterans, right? Family members. Just let me know when you're ready.
Okay. Making sure. You guys ready for our meeting?
So the answer is yes. We have been at meetings every single night for the past 4 months. And then when we're not at meetings, we are hanging signs, we're talking, knocking doors, we're making phone calls. So it's been very busy. Are we ready to roll?
We're
Not hearing this person.
That's
Okay, should I start again?
if we'd like, please,
Okay.
please do.
Sorry about that, everyone. I didn't know it was muted. I'm Susan Lee, and I'm running for Commission Seat B. And a little bit about myself. My husband and I, we raised our 4 sons here. They're all married, and they are raising my 12 grandkids here. And I got my degree in accounting, and my husband and I ran a small trucking business, ran trucks throughout the 13 Western United States. I know what running a business is all about, and I know how to take care of money and make a profit. And I know that that's something that's important for what I'm running for. I also served on the Kaysville City Council for 4 years and on the Power Commission for 3. I've also served within the Republican Party of Davis County in numerous positions, most recently the Lincoln Club president of Davis County. And but what lit a fire under me? I got a 30% tax increase notice in the mail. And I went down to the Truth and Taxation hearing, and soon through research, I found out that there was a $12 million debt that the county had. Now, knowing I also learned that the county gets $90 million through property taxes, and then they get up to $300 million with other taxes through federal, state, and fees and sales taxes, and all the other makes up the difference. So they have a $300 million budget, and that wasn't enough. They went $12 million in debt. And so they had what I call a huge spending problem. And so looking into it, I couldn't just sit back and watch. I stepped up. I had no plans to run, but I am running. It's a great time for me to get in there and roll my sleeves up and to make the decisions that are required to make it efficient and run better and not be in debt. They did only raise taxes half what they needed, which was 15%. So they had a $6 million shortfall. With that, they went to the departments and they asked them for a tax to reduce what their spending is. They came back, they were able to cut $2 million. They still had a $4 million shortfall. They actually are offering early retirement buybacks. And so if that goes through the way they think it will, they'll have another $2 million savings. That will still leave them $2 million short. And so they're hoping for additional revenues. And if not, they'll use reserves to pay that difference, and then they're created problems for future commissioners to take care of to cut that additional $2 million. So we need somebody in there who's willing to take on these problems, willing to make the tough calls and get everything back in alignment the way it should be. We don't want to put a tax burden on the backs of the people, especially the fastest growing segment of our population, which is 60 years and older. And that Truth and Taxation hearing, there were so many of them that showed up with their mortgage payments and with their property tax bill. And they would say, we cannot afford our home anymore. We're going to have to sell it. It is a problem in the county, and we need to take this problem on. We need to find a solution so that we don't have to sell our homes to live in, so we can afford to live in Davis County. And that's what I will do as your commissioner. And I'm asking for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee. Sorry, I'm not as pretty as Susan Lee to look at here, but we do have the voting results and we're recording, Mr. Secretary. So now the results, I think we have a little discretion here. We have them all counted out. There were some races where people abstained because maybe they didn't know the candidates that well. We did have well, more than enough people have legal meetings. So let me announce the results. So for House District 16, our winner was Trevor Lee. For Congressional District 3, between Phil Lyman and Celeste Malloy, it was Phil Lyman. And I didn't mention Bob Stevenson, but he was the other one in House District 16. Senate District 7, we had Braden Hess and Stuart Adams. They both addressed us. The vote went to Braden Hess. He's our endorsed candidate from the Veterans. Weaver seat B. This is one where a lot of people abstained, but we still had plenty of votes to count. And we have Duane Kearsley is our winner for Weber County Commission seat B. And our final contested race tonight for the primary, we had the Utah County Clerk, and we heard from Aaron Davidson, and we gave out Corey Astill's website. He wasn't able to be with us, but the vote went to Aaron Davidson. So our winners, once again, House District 16, Mr. Lee, CD3, Phil Lyman, Senate District 7, Braden Hess, Weaver seat B, Duane Kearsley, and Aaron Davidson. Thank you, everybody, for taking your time on a Friday night, joining the veterans, and thank you to the candidates for coming out. They have busy schedules. They were all, I thought, very respectable in their comments to us, and they certainly know that the veterans are watching. So thank you, veterans, for keeping the interest up. And do we have any other closing comments? Anybody? I'll just say thank you to our new second vice chair, Colton Hatch, and our continuing Secretary Blair Brandenburg for their efforts, and all of you for joining us online. The end. Oh, thank Faith Baptist. I'll have to do that press release. I took a picture of this. Maybe you want to too, just for record keeping, you know. No hands raised or anything? Thank you, Blair. Okay, so you can end it at will.